He came to Tokyo only for a vacation, but one neon-lit night turned into a hunt. Ethan and Marco, a couple escaping the ordinary, were caught in the web of a shadow empire where a single black card can cost everything. Kidnapping, sleepless rooftops in the rain, chases through underground tunnels, every step balanced between life and disappearance. Their rescuer, the silent former detective Kenji, leads them through the night while a forbidden tension sparks between three hearts, fear and desire beating in the same pulse. A hidden data drive ignites a deadly pursuit, and love becomes an explosion that shatters trust. Betrayal kisses under the crack of gunfire, the decision to destroy the evidence and flee through the city's subterranean rivers. Will it save them from revenge or only delay the inevitable? As dawn rips through the clouds, the three drift apart, leaving the viewer trembling. Can Ethan keep both love and life when the past has already found their trail? Are you ready to discover who will disappear first? I landed in Tokyo with Marco grinning despite myself. He squeezed my hand on the train and said, "Don't blink." I blinked anyway because the city lit like a fuse. Neon slid down the glass, machines hummed, and the air tasted like metal and citrus. We planned to film street food and late bars. Instead, the night chose us. Golden Guy was a knot of alleys where doors opened like secrets. Marco lifted his camera. His shoulders steadied. A man in a fitted suit brushed past me too close. Another waited by the stairs, ink above a collar. I told myself we were just tourists until the first man returned, set a black card on our table, and tapped it. The kanji looked like a cut. "What does it say?" Marco asked. "Det," I said. He laughed like a joke. I didn't. Heat formed behind us, breath that wasted ours. We stood. The alley smelled of smoke and rain. A black van idled without plates, windows dark. "We should go," I said. "We're already gone," he said, smiling brave and reckless. We cut left, then right. Lights smeared into ribbons. The van moved too. A man stepped out of shadow and asked, "Ethan?" I didn't answer. Another opened the side door. I grabbed Marco's wrist. He squeezed back. Then three things happened at once. The door slid, men in matching shoes filled the alley, and a voice behind me said, "Don't fight." I fought. I swung, missed, swung again. Someone folded my arm behind me and the city blurred. Marco shouted my name. Unclean syllable, then the shout snapped as they lifted him. The card fell to wet ground. The kanji bled. I caught his eyes. No fear, only stubborn light. Then the van ate him. The door slammed, tires kissed water. The alley shrank. I was a man holding my breath in a city that would not give it back. By the time my fingers worked, the rear lights were beads. I ran anyway, past lanterns and posters, past a woman lighting a cigarette, past a line of suits who did not look up. I yelled for help. My voice broke on concrete. A scooter clipped my hip. I spun, kept running. The van turned a corner and vanished into the low dark like a trick. I stopped under a fire escape and listened. My heart tapped a wild code. The city answered with the buzz of lights and rain. My hands shook. I pressed them to my ribs. The drum refused to slow. A doorman slid his window shut. A cat looked at me, then leapt on to a steel step. On the ground, the black card waited like a dare. I picked it up. The kanji carved through the gloss. On the back, a number, 8 digits, spaced like a rhythm. I dialed. The call did not ring. A voice slid into my ear like a blade into its sheath. "You have something to pay," the voice said. "And something we want." "You took him," I said. "Take me instead." "We already did," the voice said. "We took your anchor. We will call again." The line clicked dead. I stood as rain built and felt something give. It wasn't courage. It wasn't hope. It was the last piece of the day where I believed we were just visitors. I pocketed the card, leaned my head against metal, and let the rain right my face. When I moved like a man learning to walk on a shipwreck, step heavy. I did not know where to go, only that I could not go home without him. Our hotel room was turned inside out. Drawers open, bed crooked, toothbrushes gone. The safe was empty. On the desk, a paper I hadn't left waited with the same red kanji. I pocketed it. I lifted Marco's spare battery and held it like a charm. My hands remembered his shoulders, the way he leaned into me before a shot, the way I steadied him without thinking. That memory was the last calm surface in me, and it cracked. I am not a fighter. I write code. I make coffee too strong. I forget umbrellas. But love had taught me the language of the line you do not cross. They had crossed it while looking me in the eye. Something old woke. I opened my laptop and told the city I was done blinking. Then I began to hunt. I watched the doorway until rain thinned and the street reset. The number on the card did not call again. I needed eyes, a map, someone who knew how a van without plates drifted through Shinjuku like a crown. Kisaragi had 10 stools and a mirror that had seen too many apologies. The bartender watched me, compact and calm, sleeves rolled, a scar where a ring might have been. "Whiskey," I said. He poured, slid a napkin toward me. On it, "You chased a black high, Ace. Why, you saw it. Everyone sees," he said. "Not everyone looks. They took my partner." He nodded once. "Name, Marco, yours, Ethan, Kenji," he said. "Finish the whiskey, then we walk." In the alley he pointed to a lens under a gutter, another embedded in a sign. "Public feeds, private feeds. Some are toys, some are teeth. The van hit 3 cameras I can see. One is mine. Can you keep your hands steady when it counts? Good. Hold the umbrella." In a back office he woke an old monitor. Rain thickened on the screen and the van nosed into frame. Marco's face flashed a blur behind tinted glass, but I knew the line of his mouth even in pixels. Kenji froze and zoomed. "They used the West Service Road," he said. "It dead. Ends to a gate that opens for people who never wait. Which people? People who pay for quiet, and people who sell it. Can we follow it?" "We can't follow what it touched." He hopped feeds. The van appeared, vanished, reappeared by a delivery bay, then again near an hourly hotel. The timestamps drew a line. At a 4th feed it turned into an underground garage with a discreet logo. Logistics. "That's not logistics," I said. "A roomer with invoices." He set a prepaid phone and an earpiece on the desk. "You want him back? You don't call police. Push too soon." He moves from leverage to lesson. "I understand," I said. Even as part of me wanted sirens. "Here, force is silence," he said. "You want be a hero. You'll be exact. Why help me?" He looked at the scar. "Once I was slow. The city ate the seconds. I don't leave seconds on the table anymore." We moved. A courier friend owed him. We took a uniform that smelled like cardboard and a dolly that knew the pavement. He drew a map on my palm. "Baby door, service lift, low, left cameras. If they stop you," he said, "you're a temp who can't find receiving. Keep your voice flat. Be a problem they can fix by waving you through. If they don't, then you leave. We don't trade your life for a chance. Am not leaving him. You aren't. You're listening." He adjusted my cap, then rested his hand on my shoulder. The touch meant breathe. At midnight we rolled toward logistics, rain polished into black glass. A guard blinked at my paperwork, chose boredom over conflict, and buzzed the gate. The garage swallowed us. Kenji's voice arrived like a second pulse. Elevator ahead. 3rd level. Left of the vending machines, I kept my eyes low, my hands busy. The dolly clacked. On level 3, a corridor stretched so clean it felt like a verdict, 2 numbered doors, then a 3rd with no mark. The earpiece clicked once. "Door 3, Kenji said. I knocked once, like a delivery, no answer. I slid a flat bar under the latch and lifted. The door yielded. Inside, a chair, a camera, zip ties, a glass of water, a heel scuff in dust. "He was here," I said. "Keep moving," Kenji said. Room beyond. A second door led to a narrow hall and another room lit by a cheap lamp. On the wall, whiteboard with numbers and short names. On the table, a phone logged into a messaging app. A thread blinked. The last message read, "Anchor secured. Transfer in 1 hour. A pin, the harbor. They said." "Anchor," I whispered. "Now we know why," Kenji said. I shot the board, pocketed the phone, and walked out carrying nothing that looked like fear. The guard waved us back into the rain. Kenji printed a map underlined appear. "You want him back?" He asked. "Yes." "Then we hurry, but we do not run." I clutched the borrowed courier jacket tighter as Kenji and I cut across the midnight sprawl toward the harbor. Tokyo Bay spread ahead, black water holding the city's lights like scattered coins. The rain had eased, leaving the streets slick and soundless except for the hiss of distant freight cranes. Kenji walked beside me without hurry, a shadow that breathed, "Keep your head down." "Watch for cameras," he said, barely above a whisper. I matched his pace, pulses staccato against my ribs. Every block felt like a trapdoor. We reached a rusted gate marked only with a fading number. Kenji slid a card through the reader. The light blinked green as if it knew him. "Old favors," he murmured. The gate rolled back, metal shrieking. We stepped inside a maze of shipping containers stacked like crooked teeth. "Stay close," he said. We wove through narrow aisles, our footsteps dampened by slick steel. Somewhere a generator throbbed, a low mechanical heart. My phone. Was it a text from the burner Kenji had given me? One word. Soon I stopped cold. Kenji glanced at the screen and nodded. "They want you to know Thayer ahead," he said. "Psychology." "Keep moving." A clang echoed from the far end of the yard. We ducked behind a container. A pair of men in dark jackets strode past, their boots slicing puddles. One carried a flashlight, its beam grazing the walls like a hunting animal. Kenji's shoulder pressed into mine as we crouched. The warmth of his body was startling, solid and certain in the damp chill. I felt his breath brush my ear. "Not yet," he whispered. The beam swept away, the footsteps faded. Only then did he ease back, though his hand lingered a fraction longer on my arm than necessity required. I felt the quiet electricity of it, a charge that ran deeper than fear. We slipped from cover and followed a narrow service road toward the pier. Beyond a chain link fence the bay opened wide, cranes rising like skeletal giants. A single warehouse sat at the edge, one door lit by a weak yellow lamp. Kenji studied it through a small monocular. 2 guards, he said. Inside, maybe more. Your friend could be here or already moving. Then we go in, I said. He lowered the lens, not head, on. We used the water. We circled to the seawall where a narrow maintenance dock jutted out. A small skiff bobbed there, ropes slick with algae. Kenji untied it, motioning me aboard. The wood rocked under our weight. We pushed off, the oar strokes soundless, except for the lap of dark water. As we glided toward the back of the warehouse, I caught the faint hum of voices inside. The night smelled of salt and engine oil. My nerves sang like live wire. Kenji's knee brushed mine as he rode, steady and controlled. "First time breaking into a yakuza site?" he asked, almost a tease. "First time breaking into anything," I whispered. He gave a small, crooked smile. "You're holding up." The skiff kissed the far side of the dock. We climbed a ladder slick with rain. At the top, a side door waited, unguarded. Kenji pulled a pick from his pocket. The lock clicked open with a sigh. Inside, the warehouse smelled of wet rope and diesel. Shadows stretched long across crates, marked with shipping codes. We moved between them like ghosts. Somewhere above, a chain rattled. Then a sound I knew, Marco's voice, muffled but unmistakable. My chest tightened. I turned, but Kenji caught my wrist. Slow, he mouthed. We followed the sound to a small interior office. Light leaked through a narrow window. Kenji peered in, then drew back. 2 men. "He's tied to a chair," he breathed. Adrenaline surged. I reached for the door, but Kenji blocked me, palm flat against my chest. "Wait for the gap," he said. His hand stayed there, warm, steady. For a heartbeat we were frozen. His eyes on mine, the charged silence louder than the storm outside. He moved first. "Left guard smokes," he whispered. "When he steps out, we strike." Minutes stretched. Then the door opened, and one of the men stepped into the hall, lighter in hand. Kenji moved like water, silent and sudden. An arm around the man's throat, a quick twist, a soft collapse. He signaled me. We burst in. The second guard spun, surprise flaring too late. Kenji's elbow met his jaw with a sharp crack. The man crumpled. Marco looked up, eyes wide with a mix of fear and disbelief. Rope bound his wrists. I dropped to my knees, pulling at the knots until they gave. "You're safe," I said, though my voice shook. He grabbed my shoulders, breath ragged. Ethan Kenji cut in. "We have to move, now." We slipped back the way we came, Marco leaning on me, Kenji covering our trail with the precision of a soldier. Outside, the night felt sharper, every sound amplified. At the skiff, Kenji paused, scanning the darkness. "They'll notice soon," he said. We pushed off. The bay swallowed us in quiet water. Marco clutched my arm as if he feared the world might take him again. His forehead rested against mine for a brief, trembling moment, no words, just the shared heat of survival. Kenji rode, silent but close. Our eyes met across the shadows. Something unspoken pulsed there, respect, danger, and a spark that neither of us could name. The city lights trembled on the black water, and the night carried us toward whatever waited next. The skiff scraped the seawall as Kenji hauled us back to land. Marco climbed out first, unsteady but determined, rain streaking his face. I followed, my legs numb from adrenaline. Kenji's eyes swept the pier in a slow arc. "No headlights," he said, "but they'll know soon." We cut through the container yard, each shadow a question. Marco stayed close, his breath fast. I wanted to pull him against me, to feel that he was real, but Kenji set a relentless pace. Only when we reached the side streets of Keet did Kenji slow. He guided us into a shuttered ramen shop where a single bulb glowed behind a half-closed curtain. The owner, a wiry man with sleep still in his eyes, locked the door after we entered without a word. Another of Kenji's debts. Marco collapsed onto a stool. I thought he broke off, rubbing his wrists where the rope had bitten deep. "You're safe for now," Kenji said, "but they won't stop." I crouched beside Marco. "Did they hurt you?" "Not yet," he said. "They kept asking about a drive. Said you had it." A cold weight settled in my stomach. "A drive." Kenji shot me a sharp look. "Explain." I exhaled. "At work, we found a leak in a client's data. I copied proof to a portable drive before the servers were wiped. I forget it was in my bag. You forgot. Kenji said, voice flat, it was for evidence you brought yakuza, attention across an ocean. He cut in. And you didn't tell me. His words landed like blows. Marco stared at me, hurt spreading across his face. Ethan, we didn't you say anything. I thought it was nothing, I said. I didn't know that's the problem, Kenji snapped. You didn't know and you didn't ask. The room tightened around us. The ramen shop smelled of broth and rust, the air thick with silence. Marco stood abruptly. You risked us for a secret drive. I was trying to protect my company, I said. What about us? His voice cracked. Did you think about us? I reached for him, but he stepped back. The distance felt wider than the ocean we'd crossed. Kenji turned to the owner and spoke quickly in Japanese. The man nodded and disappeared through a back door. Kenji faced me again. You've made both of us targets. They'll keep coming until they have that driver you. I can fix this, I said. You'll give it back? They don't want it back, Kenji replied. They want silence. Yours permanent. Marco's hands trembled as he gripped the edge of the counter. You dragged me into this without a word. I followed you here because I trusted you. His eyes, usually warm, now cut like glass. The betrayal stung worse than the night's danger. Kenji stepped between us, voice low but fierce. Argue later. We need a plan. Marco shook his head. No, I need space. He moved toward the door, but Kenji blocked it. Outside is death, Kenji said. Marco's jaw tightened. Then death has better company than lies. The words punched through me. Marco, please. He looked back once. A flicker of the man-hod crossed an ocean with me, then turned away. Kenji let him pass, jaw clenched, and the door closed on the sound of rain. I stood frozen. You just let him go. Kenji met my stare. He's angry, not stupid. Hell hide, but you. He stepped closer, his voice a controlled burn. You need to decide if you're a victim or a weapon. Something inside me wavered. I never wanted any of this. No one does, he said. But it's here, and if you keep chasing without thinking, you'll lose more than him. The ramen shop clock ticked like a distant metronome. Outside, sirens wailed-distant, but growing. Kenji's presence filled the room, heat and danger in equal measure. You can still stop this, he said quietly. Destroy the drive, disappear, or fight, and accept what it costs. I thought of Marco's face, of the promise ID made without words. My chest ached with everything unsaid. Kenji's gaze softened for a heartbeat. Ethan, he said, almost gentle, choose. Rain hammered the shutters. Somewhere beyond, footsteps splashed through puddles. Too many to be chance. Kenji's hand brushed mine, not comfort, but readiness. The door rattled once, then again. Voices in Japanese barked orders outside. Kenji's eyes locked on mine. Decision time. The shop lights flickered as another knock shook the frame. Marco was gone. The enemy was here, and the bond wed built in fear now stood on a knife's edge. Rain hammered the shuttered ramen shop like a warning drum. Kenji motioned for silence, his hand hovering near the small knife hidden at his belt. The voices outside barked another command short, sharp syllables that made my pulse trip. Rear exit, he mouthed. We slipped into the kitchen where a single fluorescent light buzzed like a trapped insect. Steam from an unused pot clung to the air, mixing with the smell of broth and iron. Kenji pushed open a narrow door to a delivery alley, checked both directions, and pulled me out into the storm. They are sweeping the street, he said. We move fast and quiet. The alley led to a tangle of service lanes glistening with water. Somewhere behind us a door slammed. Kenji grabbed my wrist and pulled me into a run. We darted through puddles, breath pluming, shoes slapping wet pavement in a syncopated rhythm. A flash of movement to our right, while men in dark jackets emerging from a side passage. Kenji yanked me behind a vending machine just as a flashlight sliced the alley. My heart pounded so hard I thought the sound would betray us. The beam lingered, then drifted away. Kenji exhaled. Thayer spreading out. We need height. We scaled a metal staircase to a rooftop slick with rain. From here the city sprawled like a neon circuit board, wet streets reflecting pink and blue lights. Below, the men fanned out, their radios crackling. We split, Kenji said. I draw them. You find Marco. I grabbed his arm. No, we stay together. He hesitated, eyes narrowing. You want lose him again. I want. Something flickered across his face, respect or warning. I couldn't tell. Then stay low. Follow my lead. We crossed rooftops, leaping narrow gaps while water sprayed from our shoes. Each landing jolted through my knees, but adrenaline carried me forward. Down an adjacent alley, a figure moved against the current of pursuers. My breath caught Marco. He was soaked, hood up, scanning the shadows. Marco, I hissed. His head snapped toward me. Relief lit his face for a heartbeat before confusion replaced it. "Ethan, what quiet," Kenji whispered, pulling us both behind an air duct. Below, 3 men converged on the alley, their flashlights converging on the spot where Marco had just been. He pressed closer to me, shoulder to shoulder, heartbeat drumming through wet fabric. "They followed me," Marco whispered. Kenji's jaw tightened. "We keep moving." We ducked through a maintenance hatch and into a deserted office floor. Rain tapped the windows like impatient fingers. Kenji checked the stairwell while Marco and I crouched near a stack of boxes. Marco's breath trembled. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I shouldn't have left." "I'm sorry too," I said. "For everything." He reached for my hand, fingers cold but sure. The contact grounded me, a spark of warmth in the chilled room. "Well, fix this," I said. Kenji returned. "Harbor's crawling now. We need a different exit-old subway line nearby. Move." We slipped into another alley where steam from vents shrouded us. Kenji guided us through a service door into a forgotten stairwell that spiraled downward into the city's underbelly. The air grew damp and metallic. The tunnel opened into an abandoned platform littered with graffiti and echoes. Our footsteps stirred ghosts of old trains. Kenji checked his phone, a faint blue glow on his face. "Temporary safety," he said, "but they'll search here too." Marco sagged against a pillar, water dripping from his hair. I wrapped an arm around him, feeling the tremor in his muscles. "Well, get out," I murmured. He looked up, eyes searching mine. Even after what I said, yes, I said, especially after, for a moment the danger receded. His forehead touched mine, a silent apology, a fragile truce. Heat moved between us, unspoken, undeniable. Kenji cleared his throat softly, a reminder of the world beyond our bubble. "We need supplies," he said. "I know a place." We followed him through the dark, the tunnel narrowing until a rusted gate appeared. He forced it open with a grunt. Beyond lay a disused maintenance corridor leading to an old utilities depot. A single bulb glowed over a battered door. Kenji knocked a pattern to a short, one long. The door opened to reveal a woman in her 50s, eyes sharp behind round glasses. "Kenji," she said, surprise flickering. "Old friend," he replied. "We need a favor." She ushered us inside, locking the door. The room smelled of solder and tea. Shelves overflowed with electronics and tools. "Brief," she said. Kenji explained while she brewed green tea with brisk efficiency. Marco and I huddled on a worn couch. He leaned against me, head heavy on my shoulder. Despite exhaustion, the contact felt electric. The woman handed Kenji a small pack. "Clothes, cash, burner phones," she said. Her gaze swept over Marco and me, unreadable. "They'll be looking everywhere." Kenji nodded. "Well, move before dawn." Hours stretched in quiet tension. Outside, the storm softened to a mist, but danger hummed in the pipes. Marco dozed against me, his breath warm at my neck. I closed my eyes, letting the rhythm steady me. A crash shattered the comm. Metal clanged in the outer hall. Kenji was already moving, knife in hand. Echo killed the lights. The door shuddered under a heavy blow. "They found us," Kenji whispered. Marco gripped my arm, eyes wide but steady. The second blow splintered wood. Kenji glanced at us, voice a razor. Thin thread, back exit. Now. We ran through a narrow passage into a service tunnel slick with condensation. Behind us the door finally gave way, and voices spilled in, angry, urgent. Kenji led at a sprint, the pack bouncing against his shoulder. The tunnel forked ahead, one path collapsing into rubble, the other a black throat of unknown length. He chose the dark. The sound of pursuit echoed closer, boots pounding stone. Our breaths merged into one frantic rhythm as we plunged deeper into the tunnel, the city above unaware that the night's quiet held a new war. The tunnel narrowed until the air itself seemed to press against our backs. Kenji's flashlight threw a weak cone that jittered across rusted pipes and dripping brick. Behind us, footsteps ricocheted like gunfire. Faster, he hissed. We stumbled through a curve where the ceiling sagged. Water dripped in steady taps that counted every second we didn't have. Marco's breathing turned ragged, but he refused to let go of my hand. A burst of light flared behind us, flashlights sweeping the bend. Voices barked in Japanese. Kenji killed his beam. "Left ahead," he whispered. "Service hatch." We slid through a narrow gap into a chamber lined with ancient valves. Kenji shoved a heavy panel, closed just as the pursuers reached the corner. The clang echoed like a challenge. "They'll find the hatch," I said. "Not before we move," Kenji replied. He crouched near a rusted ladder that climbed toward a faint draft. Up, the ladder scraped cold against my palms as I climbed. At the top, Kenji forced a grate aside, and we emerged into a deserted maintenance corridor that smelled of oil and ozone. "This connects to the metro," he said, "but they'll guess." Marco leaned against the wall, chest heaving. How long can we keep running? Kenji met my eyes. Until you stop carrying the reason they chase you, the drive. Still zipped in the inside pocket of my jacket, heavier than iron, I pulled it out, the tiny rectangle slick with sweat. If I give it to them, they kill us anyway, Kenji cut in. It's proof of their crimes. They can't let it live. Marco straightened, eyes dark. Then why keep it? Destroy it. I stared at the drive, the evidence that had started everything. It's the only proof. People died because of this leak, and will die if you cling to it. Marco said, voice sharp, is justice worth us? His words sliced deeper than any blade. I don't know, I admitted. Kenji stepped closer, gaze hard. You know, you just don't like the answer. Silence thickened. Rain above drummed on unseen streets. For a heartbeat I felt the pull of two worlds. Marco's desperate plea for survival. Kenji's cold insistence on purpose. Marco's voice broke the standoff. I followed you across an ocean because I loved you. I'd still follow you, but not into death for a piece of plastic. The confession landed like a shockwave. I felt the weight of years between us-shared trips, quiet mornings, promises never spoken aloud until now. Kenji looked away, jaw tight. Love won't stop a bullet, he said, softer than I expected. I met Marco's eyes. I love you too, I said, the words tasting like both relief and surrender. His hand found mine, trembling. Then choose us behind us, Metal groaned. Our pursuers were forcing the hatch. Kenji snapped back to command. Decision time. I raised the drive. Its small lead blinked like a heart. There's an incinerator in the power room, Kenji said quickly. End it now and we vanish. Marco squeezed my fingers. Please, the grate below screeched. Voices surged closer. I looked at Kenji. If I destroy it, the evidence is gone forever. He held my gaze, something unreadable flickering their anger, maybe respect. Then it lives only in you, he said. I hesitated, then hurled the drive onto the concrete and stomped hard. Plastic cracked. I ground it beneath my heel until only shards remained. Kenji nodded once, expression unreadable. Move, we raced through the corridor to a service elevator. Kenji jabbed the button, and the cage rattled downward. The shaft smelled of dust and old electricity. Below, faint station noise rose like a distant tide. When the doors opened, we spilled into an empty platform lit by a single flickering bulb. An abandoned train car waited on a side track, door ajar. Kenji motioned us inside. The car smelled of rust and forgotten rain. Marco collapsed onto a bench. I sat beside him, our shoulders touching in the charged silence. Kenji remained by the door, eyes scanning the darkness. They'll search, he said, but without the drive, you're less valuable. Still dangerous, but not priority. Marco leaned against me, his breath warm on my neck. We're alive, he whispered. I wrapped an arm around him. Because of you, I said. Kenji turned, the dim light catching the scar on his hand. Because of choices, he corrected. I met his eyes. For a moment the world narrowed to the quiet car, the storm beyond, and the steady thrum of hearts that had survived together. There was gratitude in his gaze, something else, a restrained spark that mirrored the one I felt. But the moment broke as faint echoes of pursuit filtered down the tunnel. Kenji straightened. Not over, he said. They'll guess where we surfaced. Marco gripped my hand. Then we keep moving, he said. Kenji allowed himself the hint of a smile. Now you sound like a fighter. The train car vibrated as distant machinery woke. Somewhere a signal clanged. We slipped out the far door into another maze of tunnels, the city above us oblivious. I looked back once at the shattered drive glinting faintly on the floor. A fragment of truth gone to ash. Ahead, Kenji's silhouette led the way, Marco at my side. We were alive, but the night still hunted us, and the choice ID made would follow long after the last footstep faded. Dawn seeped into the tunnels like pale smoke. We had walked for hours, a silent procession of three. Kenji ahead, Marco and I side by side, footsteps softened by damp stone. The city above began to wake, the faint vibration of early trains, the distant murmur of commuters, life resuming while we hid beneath it. Kenji stopped at a rusted ladder that rose toward a grate of weak daylight. Surface, he said. Different district. From here you disappear. Marco gripped my hand. Disappear where? Anywhere, Kenji answered. Split, stay, it's your choice. The yakuza will look, but without the drive you're ghosts, for now. We climbed into a quiet alley washed in the gray of morning. Rain had ended, leaving the air sharp and metallic. Delivery trucks rumbled on distant streets. No one noticed us emerge from the ground like survivors of another world. Kenji scanned the skyline, shoulders easing for the first time. You can't take a train west, he said. Kyoto, Osaka, or the airport if you dare, but you must move before night. By then they'll know you slipped the net. Marco turned to me. His eyes, still ringed with fatigue, searched mine for an answer I didn't have. What now, Ethan? He asked quietly. I looked at the slick pavement, the skyline burning pale behind the towers. The drive was gone, but the memory of what it held remained like a shard under skin. We keep going, I said, though the words felt thin. Kenji stepped closer. If you want protection, I have friends, but it's a life underground, no credit cards, no calls home. You stop being who you were, and if we leave Japan, I asked. They follow, he said simply. They have long arms. The weight of the choice pressed heavier than any chase. Marco slid his fingers through mine. The warmth was there, but also the tremor of someone who knew safety was an illusion. Kenji watched us, unreadable. Whatever you choose, he said, choose together. Secrets brought you here. Don't let them follow you out. The street light flicked off as morning fully claimed the sky. Marco squeezed my hand. I can't lose you again, he whispered. You want, I said, though the promise felt fragile. Kenji handed me a small card with a single number. If you need a shadow, call. Only once. Burn it after. Our eyes met. A silent current passing between us, gratitude, unfinished tension. The echo of nights spent on the edge. He gave the faintest nod and turned away, melting into the city's waking crowd until he was gone. Marco and I stood alone. Cars passed indifferent. A flock of pigeons rose suddenly, scattering against the pale sun like fragments of a broken signal. We could go home, Marco said. Home isn't safe, I replied. Maybe nowhere is. He rested his forehead against mine, the city's chill seeping into our bones. Then we keep moving, he whispered. I looked once more at the alley where Kenji had vanished, half expecting him to return, half hoping he never would. The world felt both enormous and razor. Then, every sound a question, every shadow a door. We stepped into the street as the first true light of day broke across Tokyo, carrying nothing but each other and the knowledge that some choices never stop chasing you.